Welcome back to the Red Truck Woodshop. This project's going to be made from plywood and solid wood that I bought at the big box store. After hauling the plywood into my shop, I hefted it up onto my tables and proceeded to cut the pieces to the appropriate sizes. You'll notice that I start laying the pieces on top of each other, checking that they're square to make sure everything is going to be the same size on the left side, right side, top and bottom. I've found that this is the best way to ensure that everything is the correct size, even if I accidentally cut it a little bit short or leave it a little bit long. The cabinet's going to be put together with simple pocket hole joinery. I drilled the holes in each of the pieces and I'm going to glue and screw it. But before I put the assembly together, I'm going to sand everything. I've found that it's easier to sand all the pieces before you put them together whenever possible. This makes it a lot easier because you don't have to try to get into the corners to sand. Then off camera, I took some 1x4s and cut them to an appropriate length so I could glue them up into pieces to be the shelves and the drawer face. I set those pieces aside for the glue to dry, pulled out a piece of old 5/8 inch OSB that I had around the shop. My plan was to laminate a piece of 1/4 inch plywood onto the face of the OSB, saving a little bit of money. For the lamination, it was fairly straightforward. Lots of glue and then lots of brads to hold it together. Now the critical part though of this is getting it placed right the first time, because if you slide it around, you'll get glue on the surface that's going to be stained, and then the stain won't take to that surface. With the cabinet box put together, I needed to cut some edge banding for the face of the plywood. I straightened one edge of a 1x4, cut thin strips from it, and glued and brad nailed it to the cabinet itself. Then I moved on to making the door. I decided to make it a simple stile and rail panel door with flat panels in the middle made from plywood. To cut the rails and stiles grooves, I decided to use just the table saw and make multiple passes, fairly quick and easy. Then I cut the rails to length and put a tenon on each end. Now here's a little trick that I do quite often, is I'll take a scrap piece of wood of the appropriate thickness and cut it to the length that I think I want, checking to see then if it fits in the area that I want it. Here I cut a small stick just to make sure that I cut things the right size. Then I take the stick over to my piece of plywood and I use that as my measuring device. Therefore, I don't really need a measuring tape to make sure it all fits together. And of course, everything fit just right. So then I took the panels, put them into the door, test fitted, make sure everything was square, and glued it all together. Yikes! Look at that. Little yikes there too. Alright, so things are fitting up pretty nice. Got just a little bit of a gap there. And I have just a little bit of a gap there. Not near as bad as I thought. Things are fitting well. This side. So I think all we need to do is some sanding and it'll be ready for mounting. I wasn't able to find a hinge that met the needs I had. I wanted the hinge to be able to open 180-ish degrees, and nothing that I could find in a cabinet hinge would do that. So I ended up buying these strap hinges and bending them to fit what I needed. After bending them, the holes for the screws ended up in the wrong spot, so I ended up drilling some new holes for new screws. Not a big problem. In order for the hinges to sit correct and the door to sit flush, I needed to cut some recesses in the cabinet for the hinges. door up. Let me get in.
Make sure you turn your light on.
I'm sure I'll remember when it's time.
What?
Let me out!
What?
Let me out!
Okay.
That was nice. Oh yeah, that's just right. Beautiful. Thank you, hon.
You're welcome.
Then it was on to making the drawer. I once again used multiple passes with the table saw to cut the groove for the bottom of the drawer, and also some grooves for dividers in the drawer. Okay, it's time to put the corkboard on the inside of the door. I bought this corkboard off of Amazon. It's a 3/8 inch thick enough for a single push pin to not hit the back side of this. I'm going to cut the corkboard so that it fits within the stiles and rails of the door. So I'm just going to cut it, glue it with wood glue, and weight it down. So now it's time to drill holes in the side of the cabinet for these little brackets that hold the shelves. You drill a little hole and put this into the hole. You all seen that. The hard part here is, how am I going to keep my drill bit from going too far through the panel? I could take a piece of tape, put it on there as a flag, but my experience says that that flag slowly creeps up the drill bit. And I got like 50 holes that I need to drill here, and I want the spacing to be just right too. So what I've come up with is a simple little jig that I'm going to do. If I take a 2x4, which just so happens to be just a little bit skinnier than my drill bit, then I can stop at a visual spot on my drill bit and know that I'm not going too deep. As well as, this is also going to be a squaring spacer guide. So what I have is I have lines marked on here. I'm going to cut this in half, and then I'm going to have my intervals of where I drill some holes on my drill press. Then I'm going to fasten them to this so that every time it's repeatable. Then I'll move this up to the next shelf height and it's repeatable again. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll see how well this works out. All right, there you have it. Simple little jig. I'm just going to put this side up against the wall, set that on the shelf, and drill the holes up, move the shelf up appropriately, drill the holes, and keep going that way. Turned out good. Worked really well. So I am quite happy with this little jig that I made. Made it very easy. Took me only maybe 10 minutes at most to do all these holes. Got them all in a nice line, all at the same elevation, so I'm good. Lunchtime. Okay, I got the cabinet mostly done. One last thing left to do. When my daughter uses the cabinet, she wants to have this open up. We have the cork board here, and when you put push pins in the cork board, the door is going to want to wobble back, and I don't want the door going back that far. I don't think she does either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a stop to keep the door from going too far. Now, I could put in something in here just as a simple block of wood to keep from going, but I don't think that's going to hold up very well. I think it's going to pull on the hinges too much. So I've come up with another idea that I'm going to make a little test piece for here. And so let me make that test piece and show you how it's going to work. Okay, so my idea from yesterday did not work out very well. So I came back to the drawing board today, came up with a second concept, and that concept worked out. Let me show you what that concept is. Simple. Keep in mind that this is just a rough prototype, and I'm going to remake this out of nicer stuff. Alright, so here it is, and you can see the mechanism mounted to the door, and I created a track for a screw to slide in, and by doing this, the bar hits the door jamb right there, limits the movement. Limits the movement to approximately, I'd say, 170 degrees, which is what I wanted. I didn't want it to open too far. And so now it just simply close it here, and that rides back like that, and the door closes. Okay, here's the final mechanism, remade out of nicer pieces of wood. Still works the same, but now we got nicer pieces. Time to stain it.
Hey, I love the color. Getting to see this in person. I'm just gonna. Oh, do I gotta unlock it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Do you see how nicely this opens?
Yes, I made it.
I know. I got a comment on how well of a job you did. I love how you got my bulletin board stuff in here. Like, this is perfect, like this.
Okay, it's time to put the cork board on the inside of the door. I bought this cord. Oh crap, I bent it the wrong way. Baby, your partner in, you're so vain. You probably think this song's about you, you're so vain. We are the champions, my friend. I think I'm gonna be sad. I think it's today, yeah. Blessed are they who hope in the Lord. Blessed are they who hope in the Lord. Allow me to forget the life I've made my own. I've held this nation in my hand, and yet it's not my home. There was something in the air that night. The stars were bright, Fernando. Can't buy me love,
Everybody tells me so, you can't buy me love. No, 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 no.